I am Ferdinand Marcos, and I am the President of the Republic of the Philippines. I stand today on behalf of 110 million Filipinos.
And with us today is the patriarch, no? Young patriarch
I'm getting to that
of
age, Tony.
Ayala Corporation, the chairman of Ayala Corporation, Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala.
Thanks very much, Tony.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, good day. Very happy to be here, Tony. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a little while since we last saw each other.
Yeah, yes, a good friend. I have always loved Ayala.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Tony.
because it's the first time I've met a company
Yeah.
that is with such a rich heritage. The only thing that you did not do was be the waiter at the Last Supper.
It's been a long year, so we're very proud, Tony.
Yeah,
It's
190 years old.
190 years old.
This month, no?
It's a great heritage, and of course we don't tend to look at the past too much, but every now and then when you hit 190, you have to naman reflect on it and celebrate it.
And one of the builders of Ayala, of course, is your dad, no?
Yeah,
Don
he turned
Jaime.
90. He turned 90 also this year. So
Ayala Corporation turned 190.
Yeah, and
Your
he
dad
turned
turned 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means he was born when the corporation turned 100. So I was actually looking at some pictures of Ayala's celebration when it took place at 100 years. And of course, as I was looking at the pictures, I realized that's the day he was born as well.
Yeah,
so it was quite meaningful. And he was very touched. We had some small celebrations for the 190th.
That's a big celebration.
He was quite emotional, actually.
Yeah.
He was quite emotional.
And also, you also founded the first bank, not only in the Philippines, but in Southeast Asia.
Oh, we didn't naman found it. The Bank of the Philippine Islands was really the de facto central bank of the Philippines.
It was the original
early
central
colonial
bank.
days, and it evolved into a private bank. But one little known fact is it was actually a member of our family who was the first independent director back in the 1800s of when it was formed. They needed one person from the private sector, and it was one of our, great grandfathers who was asked to be the independent.
So it's a tribute
director
to the
there.
Ayala name. Because
So-
you can see things in great perspective, long term and short term, and also the commitment to country and people.
That's very kind.
In
Tony,
this
thank you.
connection, I would like to ask you, Jasa. Can I call you Jasa?
Please, Tony.
Or Don Jaime?
No, the Jasa, please.
How did you find the State of the Nation address of the president?
Yeah,
because
I was-
personally, I cried at the end of the speech. It was really very moving.
It was actually a great speech. I was very happy to be there personally upon invitation by Speaker Romualdez and the President as well. There were a number of us from the private sector there. I think in the past, not that many private sector individuals get invited, so it was actually an honor to be there. But I thought it was a great speech, and I was mentioning to some of your colleagues here that it was, I think, a great way to showcase the president, the way he walked in, the way it was filmed, the way it was portrayed, and the substance, I guess, of his dialogue was superb. What I liked in particular was he started right off the bat in Tagalog talking about something that's very important to the average Filipino, which is the price of their food. So he started straight off with agriculture and the price of food and everything that he's trying to do to streamline the supply chains and bring food prices down. And I think that must have resonance with the average Filipino because, issues of inflation, issues of the price of goods is fundamental to the daily wage earner. And so I thought he did a great job by touching right away on a topic like that, which is a pain point for the average citizen, the cost of food, and the efforts that he is making both to bring technology to the agricultural sector, to streamline the supply chain, and to do what
and
he
the
can
bureaucracy,
as a leader.
digitalization.
Well, all the elements, bringing technology as well into anything that will make the agricultural sector more efficient. It's a difficult task. Many have tried it, but he was quite eloquent in the way he put that forward.
Yeah, it's an amazing speech, especially the intro, where he was by his lonesome self walking towards the arena.
That was actually quite beautifully done, and as you pointed out yourself, Tony, and quoting from you, leadership can be a lonely thing. And that entry showed really an individual by himself, a leader of a country, and then entering an arena with the representatives from many different sectors of society there.
There was the roar of the crowd.
Yeah.
This is the guy who will slay the monster.
Well, it's not a gladiator movie, but I thought it was very effective, and it gave importance to his role as well as leader of the country. I thought it was actually very nicely done.
I was amazed that he admitted that being the fastest growing economy in the world means nothing unless I can bring food to the table of almost everyone.
Well, I think a State of the Nation address like this, you have to connect with people. And economic numbers, while they're important to all of us in the business sector, he's correct. It doesn't mean anything to the average citizen unless it affects their lives.
Yeah.
And so I think his starting off on that topic, Tony, was a great way to connect immediately with the average citizen. So I thought that was great. But then he went on from there. There were many topics, he touched on. And he talked to all the fundamental building blocks of the economy, but he translated it in ways that affected the average citizen. So I can't remember exactly the order that he went through, but just touching base on some of the topics, he talked a great deal about the energy infrastructure, trying to create a unified transmission system. That meant a lot to us in the business sector.
Unified grid system.
The grid system.
What does it mean to you?
Well,
Unified grid
essentially,
system.
we're 7,000 islands, right?
Yeah.
We're in the energy business ourselves. We're a big proponent of renewable energy in the country, and we've been
Your
investing.
energy business is 1,598 gigawatts, no?
Well, I don't know the exact number, but obviously it's quite substantial. We're a major player.
That's gigawatts,
in
not
the
megawatts.
Philippines. Yeah, not megawatts. Yeah, the gigawatt side. But the transmission is very important, Tony, because you can be producing energy in one point in the country, but if it can't be transported to other sectors that need it, so a grid can belong to just an island, or it can be connected.
The president talked
nationally.
about connecting Bohol and Cebu.
Correct.
He also talked about connecting Pampanga, Bulacan.
Yeah, well, you're very good with the details. Yeah, he mentioned specifics.
Yeah.
But what you really need is, a country like the
Negros,
Philippines is many islands, but if they're not unified by a unified grid, then and the grid is of course separate to the energy providers like ourselves, then you can't basically produce for other parts of the country. And we have a system where people can buy their energy from wherever they want. But if you don't have a unified grid, then there's no way
You
to
produce
access that
so much
energy.
energy in one place, and yet you cannot deliver it
Correct.
because the grid is not there.
And energy costs, again, are like food, are important to the average citizen.
Energy is
So-
easily 20% of production cost today of a manufacturing company.
Yeah, of many different
higher
sectors.
than labor component.
Well, depending on the more advanced things nowadays, data centers have become a very important component of the Philippine system.
Energy, you're a pioneer in renewable energy, no? Here in the Philippines and abroad. No?
Well, we've expanded. We decided to invest in the energy field relatively recently in our history. It's been over the last decade. And we started with thermal assets, and then we moved on to the renewable sector. We started to do wind projects in the north and moved to solar.
Pagudpud, no?
Yeah, but then opportunities started to appear within the region, so we invested quite heavily in Australia. That's been going through a massive transformation.
Vietnam also. No?
Yeah, Vietnam and the rest.
India, I think you are also in India.
We have a small component in India. In Indonesia, we also have
Also Indonesia,
a geothermal investment and also some wind. But I think what's important, Tony, is that the world is realizing that climate change is a real problem.
Yeah,
And I think the president himself made reference to the renewable sector and its importance. And all of us as countries, there's certain problems that we can tackle individually, certain problems that we can tackle as companies, certain problems that we can tackle nationally. But things like climate change, we all have to unite and do things together. So there's been a global movement to move towards the renewable sector and try to bring the temperature of the world down. Heating is beginning to take place across nation states, and it's affecting our weather patterns. And countries like ours, we're very affected by these weather patterns as it is. We have typhoons, we have earthquakes. Many of our cities, major cities, are at sea level.
We are among the top 3 countries in the world most vulnerable to climate change.
Correct.
No?
That's correct. So we have a role together with others, and there's been a movement, a global movement, to try to address some of the carbon dioxide that goes into the air and bring down the temperature. So we felt as Ayala, that we should get into the renewable sector. But to go back to the president's talk, a unified grid, which he was putting an emphasis on, is very important to all of us who produce energy, because you've got to be able to get energy from one point of the country to the other in the most efficient way
Transmission cost today is how much of energy retail?
I'm not sure what the numbers would be, Tony,
Be 15%.
but it's an important component. More than the cost, it's important to be able to get it to different parts of the country in the most cost-effective way. So those words had a big effect, I guess.
Because our countryside, many are undeveloped, no?
Well, correct.
It requires just injection of electricity.
Yes.
Because when you have electricity, you have telephone signal.
Well, that's correct. So it moves on
When you
to
have
the
telephone signal and you have electricity, you add roads, you have connectivity.
Well, you're absolutely right. So you touched, Tony, just on 2 points that he also mentioned. He mentioned, the president mentioned mobility, the ability to get products from one area to another. He talked about air, about roads, about rail. He felt that he would like to create a rail renaissance in the Philippines. He talked about the privatization of NAIA and getting private sector groups involved in redoing the airports. He talked about the road networks. Mobility is just a fundamental component, not only in a city like Metro Manila, where the density is high and you've got to get people to move around, but also throughout the country, farm-to-market roads for farmers and the like. So that emphasis on transportation, mobility received, I think, a lot of applause. And people were happy to see it. He talked about energy, again, another key component of it. And there was one other area that you mentioned, Tony, I guess mobility, energy.
Education. He was very keen on education.
Towards the end, the president talked about two areas, education and health. And actually, the two go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Well, the president, I think, made that connection. He said if nutrition...
Through technology, he said.
And not really. Well, I think technology is one, but I think he felt that if nutrition was not there for a young child...
for the first 1,000 days, he said, of a child.
The learning abilities, of course, of a child suffer. So I thought his emphasis on health and then education were key components of an area where we could potentially be very strong. We're getting to, 115 million people, maybe 120 already.
That's 12th largest human capital on earth.
And to a certain extent, our ability, our human capital is becoming a critical resource. And I think it's being discussed that on so many fronts, our human capital is what's keeping the economy
going.
Unless
we feed that human capital properly and educate it properly. And take care of their health, we cannot have the so-called democratic dividends.
Very good. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly right. And he put a lot of emphasis there. Interestingly, within the Ayala group...
Ayala is the pioneer in education and healthcare.
We're not pioneers.
In the right quality of education and the right quality of healthcare.
Well,
education, basic, high school, and healthcare in also primary.
Well, we've been trying to dedicate capital to those two areas. I was very happy to hear the president put
Although they are not exactly money-making.
Well, these things, everything in life needs an investment, then you build it up, and then, returns come later. Returns don't always come straight away. But on the healthcare...
How extensive is your education investment?
Well, we
have Apex schools, no?
Apex schools. But then, if you remember, we combined forces with the Yuchenko group.
You bought part of Mapua.
No, we actually merged. The different schools that we had with the Mapua schools, and we now work hand in hand with them. We're just one company with the Yuchenko group, and so we have everything from primary school all the way to more technical
to engineering school,
education.
Because Mapua is one of our best engineering schools.
And Mapua recently also tied up with Arizona State in the United States. It's a very interesting program where a Filipino can start a program in one of the Mapua schools and then finish their program in Arizona State.
That's great.
Then get a joint degree of Mapua and Arizona State, and then be able to work in the United States after that degree, because it's a STEM, usually a STEM
science,
degree.
Technology.
So there's an opportunity at a different price point for Filipinos to participate in a global education as well. We're very excited by this field. It's doing very well. We're delighted to be working with the Yuchenko group. But going back to the president, many of us were very happy to see him put an emphasis both on the health and the education side. It's the basic building blocks of our human capital, Tony. And if we're going to succeed as a nation, those are elements that are fundamental to building that community of Filipinos in the future that can thrive, that can grow, that can contribute to the global economy, and not only with our business processing outsourcing sector, which has become a very large component.
Yeah, because you're running out of manpower pool for business processing, no?
Yeah, well,
the rejection rate is now higher.
Yeah, it's become much more sophisticated with every passing year. And then, of course, we have many overseas service providers that provide services. And I think, I've argued time and time again, Tony, that people saw the movement of people out of the Philippines as a weakness. And I've always argued the opposite. I said, why is it that capital can go outside, manufacturing can go global, many areas, financial services can global, but people, it's a weakness. It's not.
Actually, the best free trade is human trade.
Well, Filipinos are providing
people
services.
being able to travel freely.
Well, travel freely and then provide services abroad. And if you look at it, that those service providers, that number, even during the worst of our crisis, has not declined.
During the COVID, the Queen of England was administered by a nurse.
That's so true. And actually,
they
thanked them personally. So to invest in our human capital is, I think, it's a big, important component. And for the president to put emphasis on our educational system, upgrading it. And I particularly liked he mentioned TechVoc. I'm a big believer in technical vocation. The vast majority of Filipinos don't graduate from high school. They can't go on to college for cost reasons or otherwise. And so if we can strengthen our TechVoc schooling so a high school student can come out and find work immediately. You don't need a college degree. That again, spreads the number of Filipinos.
Because you need TechVoc manpower for your industries, no?
Well,
because you're a huge industrial empire.
Yeah, but
and you have the best industrial products, no?
But even beyond that, Tony, it's giving Filipinos who can't get a college education an opportunity for jobs. No? So the stronger our TechVoc processes and the strength of that degree, the more opportunities Filipinos coming out of high school.
Because we have a labor surplus of about 12 million who need a better job and better pay.
And that's the key. That's the key to give employment.
And TechVoc is the solution.
And actually, going back to that, the president also mentioned those numbers. No, he mentioned that underemployment numbers had come down. Which was great to hear. That poverty levels have come down. And
the unemployment rate is below 5%.
That's correct. Which I thought was an impressive number.
4.9%, I think.
There was a nice mixture in the president's remarks of achievements, but at the same time aspirations. And so it was quite comprehensive. And more than anything, I like that it touched the needs of the average Filipino, the average human being, while at the same time speaking as well to the business sector, broader economic plan. So it was a great mixture of what the common citizen needs, and at the same time what the economy needs and what the businessman needs. I thought it was a sophisticated speech.
It's a very good speech. He first identified the major problems: food and inflation, education, ease of doing business,
telecommunications, as well.
healthcare,
energy.
Energy.
It was quite comprehensive, and but it managed to create a balance between speaking to the Filipino and at the same time to the glable community.
Because, at the same time, of course, he tackled emotional issues like the West Philippine Sea,
for
which he got the most standing ovation, most number of minutes, and the Pogo, so-called Pogo.
Well, issues of national sovereignty mean a lot to all of us, and for the president to stand strong on what he believes are our rights as a country, I think is something that we all.
And I like that he declared the West Philippine policy in Tagalog.
Yes.
Hindi sariling kata. It's not a figment of the imagination. It's real. It's living. And it will be with us forever.
And when he said it, you could see that he had a lot of sincerity.
And we will not yield.
And on the Pogo, I thought he made some very good points.
That requires a lot of statesmanship to give up. My estimate of Pogo is about 200,000 jobs, 1 million players.
Well, I think he mentioned that Pogos have a lot of negative externalities. There are many negative effects.
Great crimes are with it.
I think he was saying he would rather channel those resources into things with positive externalities. No? And I think that struck a chord as well with a lot of people. So all in all, I thought it was a very successful State of the Nation. In its own way, there's a lot to cover, but I think it was well done. I love the way he mixed Tagalog and English, touching base with the global community, but at the same time touching the average Filipino with what they needed. It was impressive. I think it was well received, and certainly was a pleasure to be there.
Then I was amazed that the Create Act has created 1 trillion investments and 100,000 jobs.
Yeah. I don't know about the number of jobs created. All I know is that underemployment has come down and that we've been giving more and more employment. Employment figures are an important indicator for a country. In many other countries, those numbers are given quarterly.
Yeah.
And so for the president to address issues of employment and the fact that we're being able to give employment.
The high unemployment, the high employment figure is more than 95%. Somehow makes up for the high inflation rate.
Yeah, well,
but
inflation's always going to be inflation's also always going to be a sensitive issue.
Yeah.
But I think for the president to put an emphasis on that, and food is a big component of the inflation.
For the very poor, food is 55% of expenses.
Exactly, and rice, of course, is a big component of that. So he talked a lot about that and trying to address it. I thought that was great.
And of course, he mentioned that for the first time ever, the biggest palay production, more than 20 million tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That's absolutely correct. You remember all the numbers. Tony,
more than 20 million tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but I wish they could sustain it.
Well, we hope so too. But I think the sincerity was there, the determination is there, and we're all excited and hopeful. I was looking at our capital expenditure budgets in Ayala.
one
Compared to
of the
last
biggest,
year.
No? Amazing.
Well, I think last year, we spent about over 260 billion in capital expenditures across our group. This year, it's gone up to 294.
294.
Yeah, that's our plan.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of commitment we have with the kind of leadership.
Almost 600 billion in 2 years.
Yeah, and so it's these are numbers that contribute, and with an economy that's growing, I think the president didn't touch on it at great length, but we're also one of the fastest growing economies.
Because the president said that he wants growth that is investment-led.
Yes.
Yeah, because right now we are consumption-led, no?
That's correct. Tony.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with consumption-led growth, by the way. And many other countries are trying to find it, but we do need more investment-led growth. So to see him put an emphasis on that means a lot to all of us, because as they say, when the tide rises, all the boats
rising
rise with
tide
it.
brings up all ship.
Yeah, so
and create a bigger pie, everybody will have a share.
And given the fact that we already have good consumption-led growth, if you add investment-led growth to that, that's a very strong.
Because consumption right now is 84% of the economy.
Yeah.
On the expenditure side.
Yeah.
And according to Ralph Recto, consumption has been growing by 7% per year.
Yeah, we're very strong. You got to remember, Tony, many countries actually would love to have consumption-led growth.
Yeah.
Even China right now.
The United States is also consumption-led.
Yeah. But we do need investment-led growth, and for that,
nothing like putting up machinery, factories.
Is correct. Hard assets that have long-term returns
that employ a large number of people.
That's absolutely right. Anything construction, factories, infrastructure. But the president has been very friendly to the private sector. He has put a lot of emphasis on PPPs and public partnerships. He's emphasized it. His economic team have put an emphasis on it. And that mix of private capital with public capital is a very powerful resource. And he sent signals, and he sent. He bid it out in AIA, which became a PPP, a successful PPP, and he intends to do more. A group like ours, we're happy to participate in any of these type of projects.
I know. Basically, also the theme is about mobility through inclusion, people going up the ladder, the income ladder. That's mobility. Through digitalization.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
digitalization. You can play a role there, because he said 77% internet reach is very low.
Well, he
I
said
think that's already very high.
Well, actually, you got to remember that we have a lot of rural areas, we have a lot of islands, but I believe the president's correct. I mean, even if we're at 75, 76,
I think my figure's only 56.
Yeah, it should be 100% ideally. But
should be 120% actually.
But since my history in the business sector, we've improved dramatically on that front. I think that's why we have a big, strong BPO business. I mean,
Yeah.
telecommunication facilities are a lot better now than they
Yeah.
used to be. And I think for the average Filipino, I think, there are more cell phones than there are
We
people.
have one of the most robust telco infrastructures.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the
Yeah.
most robust, but
One of the
definitely,
most robust.
definitely, it continues to increase. It continues to get stronger. More and more cable systems are being more and more
And
investments.
it's awesome that you cater to the low end and to the highest end.
Yeah,
No?
yeah, that's
Business
correct.
business phone is globe,
Yeah.
and also now the phone of the masses. No,
Well, I think
that's an incredible feat.
Well, I think for everyone to have access to telecommunication facilities is important, but also on the business front, we become a global service provider through the BPO, and the BPOs are very sophisticated operations now. They do engineering work, they do equity analysis, they do sophisticated work. And
Backroom
for that-
operations,
yeah,
accounting,
yeah, for
customer
for
service,
major
credit
institutions.
cards.
And so for that, you need very robust platforms to
Yeah.
be able to
You need
provide that.
good signal
Yeah.
and good telecommunication network
Right.
nationwide,
Yeah.
24/7.
Now, a lot of Filipinos is probably not appreciated, but I'm sure everybody in this room has someone that they know that there's a lot of people who, it's not even corporations, a lot of people work independently, providing services of one kind or another through telecommunication to all parts of the world,
Yeah.
accounting,
Yeah.
backroom services.
Actually, our professionals are top notch,
Yeah, super.
most
Yeah, of
desired in
course.
the world. Yeah.
But that's why we have to keep the educational
That's why they have to
thesis running.
dynamic and high quality of high quality.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And as you
So I
said
wish
earlier,
you could have more APEC schools and MAPWA schools.
no, well, that's doing very well. That investment with the Yuchenkos continues to grow, and we keep investing in it. And it's a small contribution to the broader needs of the educational sector, but it's vital to the success.
There
of
was
this.
an World Bank estimate we need 570,000 engineers right now,
Yeah,
and we produce only at best 10,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So much is needed. So there can't be enough. There can't be enough investment on that front, Tony. It's
You should
something
have
that-
more MAPWA and APEC schools.
Yeah. Well, I think the
How
country
many
needs.
APEC schools have you got? 60?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. I think maybe 60 sounds like a right number. It keeps growing. But beyond APEC, we also have bought into a number of universities.
Then you
as
also
well.
very good primary schools, no?
Yeah, correct,
Oh.
correct. Yeah, all aspects of it. Yeah. And
So you complete the educational cycle, not only K1 to K12, but
Yeah.
also college and master's degree with this Arizona thing, no?
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
And we'll continue
America
investing.
still produces the best engineers.
Yeah. Well, Arizona
Although
State's a great partnership because Arizona State, they're the ones that produce a lot of the NASA engineers and a lot of those types.
What I think of Arizona is a cowboy country.
But it's a great university, and we're very happy to have partnered.
Yeah. By the way, if I do some commercial,
Yeah.
my first grandson,
Okay.
graduated from Georgia Tech.
Okay,
The
dyan
top
ba?
of the class.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the great technical schools. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the best engineering school
Yeah.
that is government.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, public. Yeah, it's a state.
You
state
also
school.
are a product of the best Ivy League schools in America, no?
That was a long
Harvard
time.
all the way.
That was a long time ago, Tony.
Harvard
long time
all the
ago.
way.
A long time
From
ago.
college to MBA, no?
Thank you.
Yeah. And still the best name in the business
Thank
for
you.
Ivy League, Harvard
Yeah.
is the richest Ivy League school,
Yeah.
the one with the most endowment. Yeah. And
You're
they
full of
also
facts,
train.
Tony. Huh?
They also train the people with the best brain endowment, like you. About the Ayala,
Oh.
the Ayala culture, 190 years.
Yes.
Where are you going into? Kasi you are known for innovation, and you have the best family genes. You also have the ability to hire the best outsider professionals. So that makes you a going concern
Well, I think.
because you have experienced the highest and the lowest points of our country. You have been to what? 3 revolutions, no?
Yeah.
Spanish, American, yeah,
And World War.
2 world wars, 1 people power,
Yeah.
9 coup d'etat, and even your executive Rene
Yeah.
was in the government for a while.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Rene, we're very lucky. We've had a number of executives who've been part of different administrations. Rene certainly provided a lot of leadership in his on his role. Well, I think we've had a tradition of providing professional leadership. Of course, there's been family membership as well. But the current president of Ayala and CEO is Bongkon Singh. He's not a family member, independent executive. So I think we've managed to blend.
Highest ranking woman chief executive, no? Ayala Land?
Ayala Land, Miandi just took over recently. And is providing
one
leadership.
Of the biggest advocates of DEI, no?
Well,
diversity, equity, and
I'll be frank. I think we have a culture in our country where women and men are treated the same. They contribute in similar ways.
We have had a woman president far ahead of the United States. Twice
na.
Twice, yeah. Although their rule were rather how would you say, controversial. No?
Well, no, I think female leadership in our country is not an issue. I remember at business school.
Well, Ayala, I think is matriarchal, no? Margarita Rojas.
No, we have more than Margarita. There were a couple of others as well who provided leadership. We have pictures of them at the head of the table.
Amazing legacy, heritage, history. No other company can boast of it.
You're very kind.
Congratulations, Jasa. So, moving forward, how is the business? And how do you find the government? Is it a help or what?
Well, I think President Marcos set tone from very early on where he wanted the private sector to be allies with the government in the growth of the country. And his actions speak louder than his words. He's been a very strong advocate of supporting the private sector engagement in all sectors of the economy. He's encouraging. He holds these gatherings on a regular basis.
I understand.
Per industry.
He hears you out regularly, no?
Well,
he's the first president who does it.
He's organized it by industry groupings. He's very sincere when
you lead what industry group?
I'm not with any of the industry groups, but I have attended a number of the gatherings. But a number of Ayala executives are involved, and he's divided it up. Some are job creation, some are health related, some are education related. These are long meetings. He's engaged personally, and then he makes decisions at the end of these gatherings. So there's a strong rapport between the private sector and the public sector in being partners, I guess, in an economy that needs to grow.
And the president was very keen on technology and connectivity, because that's the whole idea behind the biggest infrastructure program, 9.5 trillion,
right?
And also the modernization of Philippine bureaucracy, also through technology, and
he's pushing
ease of doing business is also through technology. And that technology is in your hands, the private sector.
Well, I think digitization is important to all of us. The way products and services, the way we communicate, digitization has brought down the cost and created accessibility. I think there are more Filipinos now who have access to financial services because of digitization as well.
And we are the texting capital of the world.
Well, that was way back, Tony, and now we've moved on beyond that. And so, there's a lot to be proud about, but still a lot more to do. And I think the president showed tremendous leadership, and us in the private sector, we feel very
tremendous nationalism. I like that he said, "Love your country, the Philippines. Love the Filipino."
Well, the president has connected very well with world leaders as well, and I think people don't appreciate how important that is. I think he has to build a rapport. We're a community of nations. We all have to work together. We affect each other, and his personal engagement with world leaders has been exceptional. And for all of us in the Philippines to see him build trust with other countries, become partners with other countries, that's a big help to all of us.
He's a fresh wind of change, no? Fresh wind of change. I like that he said that he was able to manage the drug problem without killing anybody.
He made that point.
And he also said that West Philippines will be with us.
Yes.
As long as the steering of our spirit goes on and on. I like that. He said it in Tagalog.
No, I think he touched everyone's hearts with that speech, and people felt his sincerity, and there was a lot of national pride that came out of the way he spoke.
And Ayala being the first company in the Philippines, you will be there at the front.
Yeah, no,
The front line.
we're all in. As I mentioned earlier, we continue to invest a great deal in the country, a lot of capital expenditure, a lot of expansion, and we feel support. We feel
Almost
support
600 billion, huh?
Yeah.
Amazing your capacity to look forward,
Yeah.
go there, innovate, lead the country.
Thanks, Tony. You're always very kind with your words.
And on behalf of my colleagues and our countrymen, thank you for that,
Salamat din.
Yasa.
Thank
You
you,
may
Tony.
look like Brad Pitt, but you are every Filipino. You are
Salamat,
a
Tony.
Filipino in every gene and muscle
Yeah.
in your heart and in your body.
Thank you, Tony. It's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure talking to you. Salamat din. Thank you.
You are one of the best-looking CEOs.
Sorry talaga.
Pwede siyang artista.
I'm sure this will all be edited.